What's your best they didn't get the hint story? Story 1. Well, there was one time I did not get the hint. I was walking home from school with a girl, and all of a sudden she kissed me and asks me if I want to come home with her because her parents were not home. I said no because I had to get home in time to watch Rex Hunt's fishing adventures. Story 2. I remember one time I was at a party talking to one of my friends who I really like. She started talking about her job, which involved dressing up like a princess and being a children's party entertainer. I can't exactly remember how the conversation went down, but I said that must be a fun job. And she smiled and said yeah, but we could use a Prince Charming or something along those lines. I, being a socially inept blockhead, just said something like, well, there are lots of people looking for jobs these days, and went off to get some chips. I still can't believe how dumb I was. Story 3. In school, everyone in our class was brought into the auditorium for a speech about hygiene. We all got a bag of goodies which included a small sample stick of deodorant. Now I only remember one kid that really reeked of body odor, and nobody with a gag reflex wanted to sit around him. Every day for rest of the week he magically found a new sample of deodorant on his desk. He became one of those grunge kids with long hair, bad acne, and no social life. Story 4. I was driving home a good friend of mine from a high school football game my junior year. I was driving my Jeep with no doors and no top, and it got really cold all of a sudden. She clung onto me the whole way home, and when I got to her house she said she thought she kinda liked me. I just looked at her and gave her a pathetic excuse for a side hug and said I think I like you too and said good night. Didn't even walk her to her door. Story 5. Watching a film with a female friend of mine in my bedroom. She was supposed to bring the DVD of The Elephant Man, but the DVD inside the case was of another film whose name I forgot. Having known her for a while, I thought it was just like her to mix DVDs. It turned out that the film was basically about teenagers sleeping with each other. At one point she made a remark, well, when a boy and a girl are alone together, something is bound to happen. My answer, not necessarily. Look at us. Story 6. Alright, my time to shine. It became a running joke in high school that I was completely daft because I actually had a list of times that I was blatantly offered and didn't realize what was going on. By the end of high school this list was at 5. I must have been retarded. 1. Sophomore year, sitting on the bus. Freshman girl, pretty cute, starts talking to me randomly one day on the way home. She asks me if I was in that class in the TV studio. I was. She then asks me if I could show her around the TV studio after school. When no one else is around, why don't you just take the class? Then you be there all the time. She moved to the back of the bus and my friends never stopped laughing. 2. Same girl, beginning of junior year. We were walking down the street with a friend of mine and she begins to tell me about how she was thinking of getting a heated, vibrating bed. She asks me if I want to come over her house to check it out. I've never been to her house at this point. Are you going for a sleazy motel thing? Because it sounds like a sleazy motel thing. She storms off. We don't talk for a while. The friend I was walking with is one of the people who witnessed the bus incident. Hilarity ensues. 3. Same girl still, end of junior year. She asks me if I want to come over and play Mario Kart. Of course, I love Mario Kart. I show up, she's wearing the shortest shorts I've ever seen. They were actually short enough that the bottom of her underwear could be seen. It was amazing. I still didn't get the hint, so I just looked a lot. She beats me in Mario Kart, like 3 times. So what do you want to do now, she asks, placing her hand on my thigh. We can play a different game. Oh, like what? Inching closer. Just like Wii Sports or something, I guess. I'm better at tennis than I am Mario Kart. I'm asked to leave. I pretty much never talked to her again for senior year. I'm at my local county college to register for classes. I'm almost 18. Hot MILF type at the desk is helping me with my registration. She asks for my driver's license, so I hand it to her. After a couple minutes of me just standing there in silence, waiting, she hands me it back. What are we going to do for your big birthday? She winks at me. I giggle like a schoolgirl and grab my license. Then walking away without saying another word. 5. This is the big one. Not so much being completely dumb, but just being beta as, it's senior year, we're in the Orlando airport, waiting for our flight to return from senior trip at Disney World. I'd been friend zoned for lack of a better term by this one girl I really liked. I tried to hook up with her all of senior trip, and things actually started to get pretty close towards the end. My arm around her on Small World, our thighs rubbing against each other's at dinner, the whole teenage angst deal. I jokingly told her I would give her a massage when we got back because she complained of her back being tense. She thought it was endearing or something. I was so in, we're dating now. I just wanted to gloat. Anyway, she's on a different flight, so I'm sitting in the terminal with a friend of mine, sort of out of the way of everyone else. This random girl that I'd spoken to like twice in my entire life walks up and sits next to me. She puts her hand on my thigh immediately. No build-up required here. Hey, I know our flights just got delayed and I was thinking, I'm gay. She didn't believe me. My friend's jaw was on the floor at this point. Luckily he was there because this story is barely believable as is. I spent the rest of our wait convincing her I was gay, making up times in my life like when I realized, when I told my parents, when I first acted on it, etc. She was shocked. My friend asked her to sit next to us on the plane and he gave her the best biography of my life thus far that he could muster. She's probably stalking me now. Story 7 was sitting at the bar shit-faced. One of my friend's flatmates came over and sat with me. After 5 minutes she leaned over and asked me if I could give her a ride home, which I know is literally a 2-minute walk from the bar. I told her I don't have a car and besides don't be lazy, it's only a 2-minute walk. Story 8. This guy I was flirting with, for context, am a female, spent hours talking to him every time I saw him. until we got kicked out of wherever we were because they were closing. I'm incredibly shy, but we got on like a house on fire, so I couldn't understand why he was not reciprocating. I hit on him in front of the entire cast of the show we were in. He was still totally obvious. Finally I got up the lady to ask him out. He said yes, although he still claimed he has no idea I was interested. Happily been dating for a few months now. Story 9. I was on a cruise with my family one summer. I went up to the teen lounge. I was like 15 to 16 at the time and started talking to some guy. We became pretty good friends really quick. The second day we went and hung out together and ate breakfast. We then went up into the teen lounge and these two smoking hot girls came up to us and asked if we wanted to go get breakfast. Me being an idiot responded, nah, we just came from eating, maybe tomorrow. They just walked off. I realized 5 minutes later what I had done. Story 10. My friend told me the story of him going over to his girlfriend's house for the first time. It was getting late and she said maybe we should turn in. She was meant to be sleeping downstairs and him upstairs, parents' rules, but they were out tonight, so she walks upstairs with him and shows him to the room. He turned to face her and as they stared into each other's eyes, he said night, and shut the door on her. Story 11. A few years ago, almost 4 now, I met my so at a high school music festival, all state, above district and below regional. Not all states do it anymore. There were 4 of us sharing a host family. She was sharing a room with her friend, and I was sharing a room with one of mine. We'll call him Bartholomew. The last night of the festival, my future so and I are hanging out in my room with Bartholomew, and we start subtly dropping hints that he should leave the room for a while. I don't remember exactly what we said. It almost doesn't matter, as it pales in comparison to his response. After a few minutes of dropping hints, he looks at us and says, "You two sure seem to be getting along real nice," and stays in the room. Story 12. I once worked with a carpenter who flirted with me non-stop no matter how much I ignored him. He also liked calling my Jenny not my name, probably one of my least favorite names ever because he thought I looked like a Jenny. After about 6 months of this, he was transferred to a different job site because the job was coming to an end. On his last day, he asked me if I was going to miss him. My negative response didn't faze him. He pulled his tri-square out of his tool bags and asked me to sign it for him. I was confused but decided to scrawl an illegible signature from Jenny on it because 1. If he was kidding, and I hoped he was, I was now defacing his tool, and that was a small win after months of his advances. 2. If he wasn't kidding, at least now maybe he would leave alone and let me work. He wasn't kidding. He looked at the square, handed it back to me and said, "How about a number to go with that name?" I grabbed it from him, scribbled on it and handed it back. Excitedly he read it and replied, "What area code?" I told him to read it out loud. 8675309. Everyone around him burst out laughing as I walked away. He still didn't get it. I later found out he was married with kids. I wonder if he ever tried calling or if one of his buddies explained it to him. Edit. The numbers are from a song called Jenny. Story 13. My entire life is a they didn't get the hint story, and getting a guy's attention is a lot harder than I thought it would be. Either they don't get the hint or they don't think I'm cute. My ego tells me it's the first option. Story 14. It still pains me to talk about this. I pursued this cute faux readhead that I'd see around the dorms after months of being too shy to even strike up a conversation. She invited me over to her dorm to take a nap while her roommate was out, and after she tried to engage me in some heavy petting and kissing, my oblivious with her trying to guide my hand down her shorts. Mind you, asked her if she still wanted to nap. I didn't get any and we no longer speak. I'm not too clever sometimes. Story 15. When I was about 13, the hottest girl in school told me I was really cute. All I replied with was, "Well, saying something like that makes me feel good." Story 16. I'm probably one of the most obtuse people you'll ever meet. There was this one girl in my class who apparently had a huge crush on me, which I was completely oblivious to. I didn't understand that she could be attracted to me. I'm a lonely bicycling pothead barely clinging to a GPA of 1 while she had a 3.9 and sung at concerts and had all sorts of wonderful successful friends. She'd do stuff like stand close to me in class. And I'd step back. Oh, she probably stepped towards me so she could step away from the loud people over there. Better make room for her. She'd walk close to me if we ever accompanied another somewhere. These halls are pretty crowded, not much elbow room, right? She'd smile at me in the hallways. Probably having a fantastic day. I wish I could be having a fantastic day to just smile at people like that. Compliment on my clothing. Right, this sweater compliments my eyes, that's why I picked it out. Thank you. She'd make excuses to work with me in class. Yeah, the people over there are pretty loud and annoying. I'd want to get away from them too. She'd hail compliments on my artwork. Thanks, yeah, pretty good. I know I do this all the time, it's all I ever do. I was so used to people complimenting my above average but not exactly phenomenal doodles that I just blocked it out. In class, she'd turn around and look at me, biting her lip and flipping her hair and all that. Oh, there must be an incredibly handsome gentleman or perhaps a clock hovering behind me. One time she rubbed my stomach out of nowhere and said, I like the texture of your shirt, it's pretty nice. One of my female friends said she was checking out my abs and I was like, why would somebody do that? I feel really bad for the people who are attracted to me. I'm pretty sure I hurt their feelings on accident. Story 17. Was in college and talking to this girl and she invites me over, go to her house and there's like 5 to 6 other people there. She's coming on to me hard and slowly people start to file out until it's just me, her, and this one random guy. She keeps moving closer to me, hugging up on me and kissing me and occasionally telling this other guy she's getting tired and she's going to call it a night soon. He's just like, yeah, that's cool, and goes back to watching TV. Finally she gets on top of me and we start making out for like 5 minutes while he just sits there awkwardly. She stops and turns to him and is like, "So we'll catch you tomorrow," and he still doesn't get it and tries to stick around. Finally she's just like, "Dude, get the out of my house." Of course it's also possible that he was just trying to block me. Story 18. I can't name specifics off the top of my head, but am pretty oblivious to the advances of the fairer of our species. Even being a married man, there are times where a woman will hit on me and that doesn't even click. My wife on the other hand picks right up on it. Wait, I do have an story. ID been married for 6 months. ID also been on duty for 6 months as a firefighter. Our neighbor in housing was a bit older than us, but kept herself up read attractive. Her husband was always deployed, so every time there was an issue, she'd run over to our house literally right next door. She only did yard work when I was home. I worked 24-hour shifts, and when she did, it was in short shorts and bent over at the waist with her pointed in my direction. One time she cut herself minor, band-aid type cut, and she runs over to the house looking for me. "Oh, I've hurt myself, is Jay around?" Wife replies, "No, he got called in." But I can look at it, my neighbor was suddenly better and sulked home. Oh, and all of the little things she did, I never paid any attention to. My wife told me about them later. I had other things occupying my mind. Story 19. I was asked out on a coffee date with a guy from my games comic book store. We were sitting in a couch at the CAF talking about music and games when he started giving me a foot massage. I had just kicked off my heels. 1. I didn't realize we were actually on a date. 2. Didn't realize he was gently trying to gauge my interest in him. It was a shame too, since I was actually interested in him. He was sadly way too discreet for me to pick up on him hitting on me. Likewise I was way too vague about hitting on him. Oswell. The teenage dance of courting where you can't show that you're too interested in case you get shot down. Story 20. For whatever reason, I was pressing my tongue against the inner of my cheek. This cute girl smiles and tells me guys usually do this to ask for blowjobs. No, I swear I didn't ask for anything. Story 21. So I was friend-zoned for about 4 years. I had a crush on my current who was a good friend, but no matter how many times I told him I was into him there was no reciprocation. My feelings always kinda lingered, but I stopped pursuing them so it wouldn't be awkward in our friend group. Meanwhile he takes up an interest in one after another girl in our friend group. 3 years later, and he ended up at me. He still claims to not know I liked him. Story 22. Wish it was like that. Me not getting it, God. Literally every single girl I've ever been into were friends, and they all toyed with me because they simply liked my reactions and enjoyed the attention. A kiss on the lips just as friends. Lying on top of me cuddling on the couch. I'm 67. That was so beautifully terrible. It messed me up pretty badly. Thinking about it now, I probably should have just left them alone. I still really don't know how to deal with these situations. Story 23. I got quite a few of these. Only one of these ever clicked, but I never did anything about it or any of the stories in this thread. In elementary, a girl blatantly blurted out that she liked me. And going into middle school she played with my hair, and found a few excuses to chat me up with the obvious smiling, batting of the eyelashes, laughing at my bad jokes, etc. Another girl, this is more speculation, I had a class with a girl I think had at least some sort of crush on me. She was talking to a different guy and for whatever reason I was brought into the conversation. The guy asked, "Hey Anon, do you think this girl is pretty?" And I responded with a, "Jane, you're gorgeous." She was pretty dark as far as skin tone goes, but holy did she still blush like a strawberry while giggling, and it never went any farther than that. There were a couple of other girls in middle school, but none of the stories are any good. High school. In my freshman year, there was a girl from I wasn't too interested in, but she crushed on me hard. And at the end of the year she asked me where I lived and that she would see me around fishing for a date, with a look of disappointment when I answered with a vague area around town. And a maybe sophomore year, I had a crush on a girl that had a boyfriend, but she liked me too, always telling me we should hang out, and made sure to tell me when she and her boyfriend were on the rocks. I pussied out of a couple of dates with her during times when she split up with her boyfriend. Junior year, I had one girl hit on me so hard it was ridiculous. First day of the year she played and braided my hair. I had my head down on my desk so she could do her thing and stuck her in my face. I'm pretty shy so I blushed and buried my face in my arms when she did that. She offered to take me shopping for new clothes and I declined. But another dude in the class trying to salvage what I was up said I was tripping, and if he were me he would take it in a second. When we walked down a hallway after class she was shorter than me for one, so I had to look down to make eye contact, and when I did she stuck her chest out for miles so that I had to look at them in order to see her. At the end of the school day I was sitting on an end of a bench and she rubbed her on the left side of my body and walked away while another girl went. "That girl really likes you." She tried to get with me for most of the school year, including asking me out twice, tangling legs with me under the table we sat at in another class, and flirting with me in various ways, giving me easy setups. Same year, different girl. This is the only one that clicked, but I was too whatever adjective you want to do anything about it. This girl was so beautiful it was unnecessary, and out of all my years of school she was the only one I ever had a crush on. Sitting outside in a class, the wind blew and all the papers in my notebook scattered in the wind. I went to pick them up and she was the only one that helped me pick every piece of paper up. Every time she handed me a bundle and tried to lock eye contact with me, and every time she did I blushed. I went to the library for lunch to do we, and eventually this girl went from being in the cafeteria to also going to the library and sat at the same table as me. The few times I would seldom talk to her she had this way of making it feel like we were the only two people in the room. Eventually she made a bold move and asked, "Can I just?" And without finishing her sentence moved to gently play with my earlobes with her ivory fingers. I was stunned like a deer in headlights. The combination of grabbing my ears with her warm hands like that and holding me down with those deep ocean blue eyes was too much. I tried what little I could. I tried to place my hands top of hers. I got so close I could feel the warmth of her flesh radiate on my hands, but I couldn't make contact. I just pulled away blushing with embarrassment, more about the fact I didn't do anything. I have more from after high school, but those are too covered with spaghetti to be posted. And yes, I am still a kissless virgin, though in the prettiest kissless virgin you will ever meet. Story 24. Oh, got it. Context: I was 15 at the time and a loser with the ladies, okay? So every year my town has this carnival thing called a tea party, and this year my buddies and I decided to get really, really high all day for it. We smoked at my friend's house for a couple hours before going down, and when we got down there we were high as. So I saw this girl, hotter than the inside of a fresh Hot Pocket, who I had a kindling romance with in the earlier times of that year, and she asked if I wanted to go off into the park, essentially an empty, thick forest, to smoke alone. We went to a secluded clearing and smoked out of an apple, and she said things like, "Good, there are no people around," and "Alright, we're alone," and after we smoked she asked, "Are you high?" Chonged as, I replied, "Yeah, you." She said, "Yeah, but you know what's good when you're high? Food, no making out and having." Yeah, I guess that's probably true. "Hey, let's get back to the fair, I want to get on the zipper before the line is too big." And I walked off. TLDR, I was high as Icarus and didn't pick up on a babe asking me to have the with her despite me never getting any edit. Found a picture of me that day for context. Story 25. There was this one beautiful girl in college that was honestly the hottest girl in the room. Like, all the guys would stare at her and get jealous how often she and I talk casually and sit next to each other in class. I felt like the luckiest guy in my class, as guys would ask or assume I already hooked up with her. We originally met in class sitting next to her and finding a lot in common. We shared the same subject and even started scheduling our classes together to hang out more. We studied together all the time. I improved her grades by leaps and bounds. And I enjoyed having the hottest girl in class almost exclusively to me if we were in the same room. But I missed all the signals, the flirty text messages, the dissing her ex-boyfriend, saying how we should go out clubbing, and even gifting me cologne saying how she goes crazy for men who wear it. I remember being so oblivious too, texting back about if she finished her homework or when to meet up so we can study. Telling her that I was already on the way home when she wanted to go out. But I missed my chance. She ended up with some DJ who was also her cocaine dealer. She told me about how she did coke with VIPs at clubs, and I told her how disappointed I was in her doing drugs. I remember that look she gave and how defensive she was, saying she can handle it and it wasn't addictive. She said she was happy that she got this muscled-out guy who, almost ironic, would make other girls jealous of them entering the club. And she said she was willing to put up with him and the arguments they have about other guys looking at her and the way she dresses. Looking back in those 4 college years and the depression I had back then, or still have, I might have taken up on going out and probably the coke too to impress her. I'd be a very different person today if that happened. TLDR, had a friendship with a hot girl that made dudes jealous. She started a relationship with a hot dude that made girls jealous, who deals her cocaine. Story 26. 2 days ago at my sister's birthday party, her and the 15 people she had invited over were sitting in our living room waiting for the food to get there. I had gone with my mother to pick up the 7 pizzas for them. When we got home, me and my mother put the pizzas down but didn't say anything. I got a plate and put some pizza on it. From there I walked into the living room. Most of them acknowledged me and said hey. I slowly start to eat the pizza in front of all of them, going so far as to be that stands right next to the TV, blocking part of the screen. At one point my sister told the group that the pizza should be there soon and to not start another game of Cards Against Humanity. Eventually I finished the piece and they were still sitting there, completely oblivious. Probably not what most of you were looking for. Story 27. So I'm in college, and am sharing a room with my friend in a house. It's really not too big of a deal, unless my girlfriend and I want to have fun. There was this one time when my housemates and I come back from an afternoon lunch, and my GF and I realized we wanted some alone time, which was fine because my roommate wasn't around. However, another housemate asks me if he can play video games in my room. Being the stupid guy I am, I say sure, why not. Mistake. As my GF and I lay in bed, things kinda start happening, and I quickly realize FUCK, this is still here. I really try to make it obvious with the fumbling in bed and that something's about to happening, but this kid still doesn't take the hint. 10 minutes later, I literally shout at the kid, "Dude, you gotta get out right now." Why? He was so invested in his game that he didn't notice anything that was going on. He almost refused to leave too. God, I need my own room. TLDR, finally was able to get the room to myself and GF. Another housemate almost refuses to leave. I walked in on my friend masturbating. He asked if I wanted to stay for a while and do homework together. I said I couldn't. I really needed to get a paper done. God, I'm an idiot. Story 28. She invites me up at 12 o'clock at night for coffee. And I don't go up. No thank you, I don't want coffee, it keeps me up. Too late for me to drink coffee. I said this to her. People this stupid shouldn't be allowed to live. I can't imagine what she must think of me. Story 29. I have so many stories about people not getting the hint. But this is one of my favorites. In high school we were allowed to dress up in costume for Halloween, and we basically spend the whole day messing around and not attending class. Private schools are the best. Anyway, so a couple weeks before Halloween I was planning my costume to be Courtney Love. One day the boy I thought was cute was talking about how he didn't know what he was going to dress up as, and when he asked me what my costume will be I told him I want to be Courtney Love, but I don't have anyone to be my Kurt Cobain. I made obvious eye contact and smiled at him, but he didn't get it. He said, "Who the are they?" I just awkwardly said never mind, and now somehow he and I have been dating for 4 years. Story 31 time a girl who I had been best friends with and had a huge crush on told me that she was tired of all her friends dating douchebags and that she wanted to date someone who was tall, athletic, very intelligent, and didn't have a six-pack. That was me. This girl ended up being an NFL cheerleader, and still one of the coolest human beings I've ever known. Story 31 It's Valentine's Day, walking out of class with a cute girl. Her so, yeah, I'm not doing anything tonight, pretty lame, huh, me either. Her oh really, that's funny that we're both free, you know, because I'm not doing anything at all tonight. Me that's too bad, welp, have a nice weekend, walks away down the hall, that one still stings. Story 32 Story from retail I worked at a video store. There was this one lady who would come in once or twice a week, almost every week, rent a movie and games, the next hour, she'd call back and explain to us that the games would not work, every week why. We finally figured out it wasn't our games that didn't work were defective. No, it was her and her children, renting the games for systems they did not own. When we tried to explain this to her, the concept did not grasp in her reality. I told her straight to her face, you do not own this system. I don't think you should rent this game. The assistant manager piped in her 2 cents. I won't give you a refund, you've been warned, you do this every week. Sure enough, she called up the next day to complain. Story 33 I went to my friend's workplace, which was a retail store. Not being busy at the time, she was okay with me chatting her up in front of her manager. I was telling her that I got my first job, and since I jokingly promised her to buy her a rather expensive designer bag if I got a job. She decided to take her break then, so we would go around the mall to find it. She led me to a lingerie store and asked which color of bra and undies I liked. I really didn't know why this did not go off as a flare for me. I treated this moment like a guy friend asking which shirt he should get, completely non. Then I remember she told me she was on the pill. I just had no clue what that meant since slang English eludes me less than 3 Queen Bee. Story 34 This is a story of me not getting the hint. I was dating a girl in high school and she brought me to her friend's birthday party. All of her friends' boyfriends were massive tools and it made me look like a superstar. We walked back to her place and we ended up making out and watching a movie. Earlier in the night she mentioned to me that she wants to wait till we have, to which I agreed. While the movie was on, she was making very obvious moves, but I thought it was a test or something so I didn't act on them. I got a text an hour later when I was on the bus home asking me why I didn't make a move. This thread hurts my brain. Story 35 Lacking a couch, me and this girl were lying on my bed. She was on some pillows. During the conversation, she slipped off the pillows unintentionally towards me, to the point where I said, "You're so close. You're almost on top of me." She apologized and moved away. I've been dating her since, for almost 4 years now, and she misses hints a lot. Story 36 We were out smoking weed in a field in the middle of the night. She asked me if I had ever shotgunned a hit. I had no clue what that was, so she explained to me that it was where I inhaled the smoke that she was exhaling. While we were making out, my dumb just said never done that and fell on my back and went back to looking at the stars. A few weeks ago, I was walking in a local park with some friends. A family going the opposite way on the path stopped and asked, "Have you seen a rhino?" A rhino in Ohio. I assumed he was talking about a toy rhino that his son might have lost, but he gave me a really weird look when I told him I hadn't seen it. It clicked that his son was pretend hunting for an imaginary rhino seconds after they walked away. I felt like a moron. Story 37 I had been talking to this girl I had become quite good friends with and her boyfriend had recently cheated on her. I obviously comforted her and she told me, in exact phrasing, "Why can't I find a guy like you?" To which I pointed out, "I'm a guy like me." She just laughed and said, "Someone like you." Story 38 Several years back I went with a mate to hang out with his friends with benefit girl. The girl had a flatmate that was way out of my league, so I played it cool and didn't bother to even try hitting on her because I figured it would just end terribly on my part. After a night of smoking weed, midnight tag in the park and hilarious game of possum, the other two disappeared into a bedroom, leaving just the flatmate and myself. We made random chit-chats for a bit, then she got up and said that she was going to have a shower. She shot me this look that would have made the Virgin Mary wet. Being the 18 years old that I was, I stayed in my seat for fear that I might have misinterpreted that look. After what seemed like a very long shower, she came back with an annoyed look on her face. She sat down on a chair opposite mine in just a towel and made comments about how loud the other two were and how it wasn't fair. This is while she had her legs uncrossed. She gets up and goes to her room. I get up soon after, open the front door, get into the car and quickly beat one off before falling asleep. I hate myself every day.